Hello, everyone. It's another day in the life of a military wife, and we are talking about moving day. It's that time of year again. PCS season is on us, and for anyone who doesn't know what PCS means, it's permanent change of station, or the way we say moving in the military. No matter how many times you've moved, each move has its own ups and downs and challenges. Your family's in a different place, and so you have different needs. And that's one reason why I feel like it's best to just roll with it and stay positive. And also to make sure you're getting a good refresher on ideas and ways to make it more effective and simple. So that's what we're talking about today. I am so grateful for all the people who contributed suggestions in the discussion on the Facebook. Honestly, it's that input that makes these episodes more effective and better. It's hard for me to think of everything, and honestly, everyone has a different life experience, and people are really creative. So shout out to everyone who helped contribute to today's episode. And one more thing that I want to bring up, we have reached 100 listens. We're actually over 100 now. So we're growing our little community, and I'm so grateful for all of you. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. Starting this episode off, I want to focus on first things that you can do before you move to help make the move easier. And a lot of these things actually, all the ideas can even be implemented, most of them, at least preparations for them before the move. But these first few, specifically doing them before the move, is helpful. And part of that is closure. Helping feel like you're done with that period of your life as a family and you're moving on to a new one. With kids, sometimes they need a little bit more closure. And a suggestion that I got was making a bucket list, or a list with the kids of their favorite things they want to do one last time before you move. And in addition with that, maybe having a going away party or a goodbye party, a chance for them to do something fun with their friends before they leave. And we have done some of that in some of the moves we've made, but I know lots of friends who've had like goodbye parties and things like that. And helping the kids have time to say those goodbyes, to feel like they're getting those closure in those friendships, and setting up ways for them to still have contact with those friends when they get to wherever you're going, moving wise. The next idea came from Mandy, and she said to contact any organizations that you're a part of and see if they have affiliated organizations where you're going. So, for example, church, school, extracurricular, and also see if you've got friends or family who've lived in the area or are in the area, and get their advice on just different things like that. I know for us, I always make sure that I contact the local congregation for our church before we move, so that I know when and where church services are, and I can get kind of a grasp on the demographics of like how many kids there are my kids' age. So I can kind of pump my kids up and be like, hey, did you know there's 5 boys your age? And that really helps the kids get excited, knowing that they're going to have that level of continuity with church at least. And we have, in more recent, with this last move, looked for their extracurriculars. So my boys play sports, and making sure that we know where the sports leagues are and when signups are and all of that stuff, so that they could make new friends right off, the bat. And when you get there, so that it's not that awkward, I don't know anyone, I'm stuck at home bored phase. that you can just hit the ground running and meet new people and get incorporated into the community. So those are the first, those ones are, before the move sort of ones. But then there's some that are, again, in transition. And a thought that had come to me was asking my kids really what they liked from our last move. And both of my kids that I asked said that they really liked treating the travel part of the move as a vacation. And so in the process of our last move, we actually stopped off and visited family, and we actually were able to leave the kids behind with family members, and so they got to play with cousins while my husband and I went ahead and went house hunting, and the kids were able to follow along with grandma afterwards. And by that point, we already had a house set up and everything, so they had a very limited amount of time in the hotels, which they really enjoyed, having all that extra time with cousins. So that was a huge blessing for us. The next suggestion comes from Joycelyn, and she pointed out, and I feel like this applies a lot with continental contiguous United States moves, like if you're moving inside the U.S., but there's ways of doing this if you're moving OCONUS or outside of the contiguous United States. And that's packing like fruits and healthy snacks. There's going to be tons of junk food with moving. And I know that with moving, I got really we always get sick of junk food so fast. And so making sure you've got some healthy snacks for the road trip, if you're driving, or for the airplane if you're flying. And the other thing she said was letting them keep pillows and blankets and stuffed animals with them. And that reminded me of something I'd seen on Pinterest. They called it a travel pillow case. And the pillowcase had a pocket built into it where they could store like a book or activities or things like that, and it had a strap to go over the kid's shoulder so that they could carry it like on and off of an airplane or whatever as a carry-on. And I guess you could do that. A backpack would probably be more efficient if you're flying but if you're road tripping, letting them have their own little, comfort stuff is really huge. And that got me thinking in general, and we've always, and this was mentioned by several people, we've always tried to have an activity box, even if just when we go on road trips and family vacations. Having an activity box is huge. And some of the things that we have had in our activity boxes are some of their favorite toys, books, coloring books, crayons, games, decks of cards, puzzles, things like that, so that they don't get as bored in the hotel. We've stayed in a couple Airbnbs, and they don't often have stuff for kids. And so that's why we've started having these activity boxes for vacations, but we also use them during moves. And again, adapt that to the age and interests of your kids, but just, a little plastic container full of those sorts of things that you can easily take into a hotel room and just keep everything contained is a huge blessing. The next suggestion comes from Aubrey, and that's packing a small kitchen. And this is something we've done also, and it's been a huge help. But she suggests packing a pot, a pan, wooden spoon, spatula, cutting board, can opener, crock pot, or instant pot if you can. Making your own little kitchen kit. And it's because you're going to get sick of eating out really fast. And was her main suggestion. One of the reasons why we've done it is also it allows a certain level of continuity. You can make the kids' favorite foods. You can make those homey, comfort, family recipes quicker before you get into the house. And yeah, eating out every now and then is fun. That's part of what makes it a vacation or an adventure. And trying some local cuisine is always fun. But having that stuff that just reminds you of home, and especially for kids, having their favorite meal will really help them feel a sense of stability in the process of moving. And that takes me to basically one of the last two major sections I really wanted to cover. And it's treating it like an adventure. And those are the exact words that another listener, Leslie, used. And I want to share a story that she conveyed. And they spent 3 years in Germany. And during their time in Germany, they ran into a lot of people who just really kind of stayed in the military bubble, stayed in the expat community, and didn't venture out a lot. And they always were like, oh, we miss being home. We don't like living in Europe. We don't want to be in Europe. And part of it was because they didn't really see a lot of Europe. And I remember she told me when they were leaving that they were going to make this an adventure. They were going to see everything they could. And by the time they were done with their trip, with their 3 years in Germany, they had spent the time visiting 19 different countries as a family. And during it, I was always watching their little Facebook posts and things like that. And she said in her comment on the Facebook page for the podcast that was just what made it fun. They've tried to make every place they've lived and been stationed an adventure. And I've been told that several times by other people, and we've really tried to do that too. We were stationed in the South, and we weren't from the South. Neither my husband nor I had ever really spent a lot of time in the South, and we had so much fun exploring just like the Amish bakeries and learning more about the Amish community. We had a lot of fun trying real barbecue, and pulled pork, all those sorts of wonderful Southern foods, and really just getting to know the Southern culture. And Southern hospitality is no joke. The people in the South were just so welcoming and loving, and we really enjoyed our time there. And that's just part of it. If we look at these moves as these changes as an adventure, and start coming up with, and this was another idea, a list of ideas, things you want to do when you get there, and include the kids in that. So start talking early with the kids, and even just as a spouse, is like with your spouse, about things you want to do when you get there. What's unique about the place you've lived? My husband and I are huge history buffs, and so something we really enjoyed being in the South was being able to go to a lot of different historical sites and museums. And our kids have gone to so many museums. That is a huge, huge feature in every place we live and every road trip. But it's because I have a bucket list. I have things I want to see in life. I want to see places and experience new things, and I want my kids to do it too. And that sense of adventure is going to help with a lot of the downsides to moving, which is leaving behind friends and leaving behind, the place you'd made home. So, include them. Include them in that bucket list of ideas of what they want to do when they get there. And I think that's kind of a nice way to look at it. Sit down and talk to them about, what do you want to do before we move, and what do you want to do when we get there? And so that way it's exciting on both ends. It's, let's do all these things we've learned to love, and let's go make new adventures and new memories. And we have really enjoyed doing that where we are currently stationed. COVID put a slight damper on my museum excursions, but now with things opening up, I am planning on hitting a lot of museums. We've got a very short period of time to to get mommy's bucket list done. But at the same time, we've had the opportunity to do a lot of really fun things with family when they come to visit, and show them around. And we might never live in some of these places ever again. And taking that opportunity to make those memories and to get outside of the military community. There's a lot of benefits to being surrounded by the military community since you're away from your family. And there's definitely times you really need that support. But getting outside of the military community and really getting to know the culture and the people who live in these locations will really help with staying positive and enjoying having those good experiences. The last 2 points I want to make is the importance of picking a really good hotel. You may or may not have a lot of flexibility with that, but we've really enjoyed Embassy Suites. They have a really nice breakfast. We've really enjoyed the fact that we can get one room and it has 2 rooms. It's got that living room area and then a bedroom area for a really relatively inexpensive price. Another hotel that we've really enjoyed was, I think it's Holiday Inn Express and Suites. But yeah, there's also some of the extended stay ones. They'll have like full-size refrigerators, but that's really more of what you should be looking for is the features in your hotel room. Having a full-size refrigerator is huge. Having a cooktop is huge. If you don't, that's where the crock pot or Instant Pot will come in handy. And also just having some space, getting a slightly larger room is really helpful. We loved the Embassy Suites that we got because it had an atrium and the kids could just wander around, and it was colder. It was winter time when we moved. And so being able to have a place where they could stretch and run around and get the energy out, and it was great. We really enjoyed that. So finding a good hotel is going to help out a lot. So this is a really big topic, and there are aspects that for an OCONUS or CONUS, so outside of the U.S. and inside of the United States, moves that are drastically different, and there are specific tips and trips with the actual moving process. Don't worry, I am going to get to those. But that is such a big, broad, moving is just huge. So I figure I'm going to do this in steps. So I figured first things first, let's focus on ways to make the move successful with kids. So that's the whole point of today. But if you have any tips or suggestions on moving OCONUS specifically, I have never moved OCONUS. We've never been outside of the contiguous United States. And I know that with shipping, just because of what I've been told, shipping your household goods and your vehicle, there's all sorts of little things that are helpful to know. And anyway, if you want to put those in the comments and share them when I get to doing an episode on OCONUS moves and contiguous United States moves, I'll be able to include those as well. I've got a friend who is OCONUS moving right now who said that she's more than willing to give me the whole lowdown of what they go through in this process. So actually, I've got 3 friends moving OCONUS right now. Yeah, it's PCS season. That's what we do. We're military. We like to move. Well, I'm not sure we like to, but we're used to it. Anyway, I'm wrapping up. That's pretty much everything for this episode. Again, I am really very grateful for the community that is starting to grow and develop, and for the inputs and suggestions from all of you. I'm doing this for you guys. I wanted a resource so badly when we were new to the military. And it finally got to the point where I realized, you know what? If you want a resource, then make one. If you want a sense of community and a place to go and work through all the stuff we deal with, make one. And that's why I've done this. That's why I've got this podcast. So thank you. I hope that these tips and ideas can help you with your next PCS. Feel free to share this with any friends you have that are PCSing. And yeah, have a good week. This is Life of a Military Wife, and I am your host, Sam Wolf.